All right, guys, we are sitting on the Zoom video call with our good friend and hammer time bass fisherman, David McCormick from Fish 30 YouTube channel. If you guys haven't checked out Fish 30 YouTube channel, you are missing out. He shows you literally everything from start to finish. He will show you as he's driving to the lake, talking about what's going to be going on, shows you as he's putting the boat in the water, and shows you everything, the baits that he's throwing. It's just an incredible, really cool, real world video of what it's like fishing tournaments, especially here in Missouri, because he is all over Missouri, Stockton Lake, Table Rock Lake, Lake of the Ozarks, Truman Lake, you name it. He's been there, he's fished it, he's caught limits. Now, Truman Lake is, he fishes it pretty hard in the summertime. And David, I want you to, before we get into this, I want you to talk about your Fish 30 YouTube channel, just so folks can learn a little bit more about it. And then let's dive into some bass fishing. I'll start asking you some questions.
Well, I would tell you, as for the channel, it's been around since 2019. There's about 125 tournament videos. It's got some depth to it. As for, if you wanted to look up Grand or Lake Darks or whatever lake, even Palm de Terre, Stockton, Table Rock, that kind of stuff. But I don't know why I really started it, other than I love to watch fishing on YouTube. And I'm still not sure why I do it, other than I love to share it. And yeah, I do show the spots, and that sometimes bothers some people, but whatever. It's a big lake, and they say, oh, your good spot's going to get all beat up. I said, well, if they push off that, now we have a new good spot to find.
That's right.
Never ending. So, but let's talk about these Toyota Series anglers that are going to start tomorrow, because we're having a really warm period. So I'm very torn in what I would do, because I haven't been out practicing, but that warm setting is going to keep some of those fish offshore, I think. But I think there had been a movement already, because I was catching some fish, 10 days ago, 12 days ago, whatever it was, up shallow, on some flat points, maybe even a flat point that ran out into the bank, out into the lake. But if I hopped out of the boat, I would only be knee deep water,
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't know. I'm very torn if a guy's going to catch them out on the main body offshore, or if somebody's going to really crush them way up a creek somewhere, because the lake is big. I mean, it truly is. If they get exploring up into the Osage or into the Grand Arms or even the Palm de Terre Arm, it goes. I mean, there's miles there. So, for the most part, a lot of us think the population up there is not very good, but I gotta believe there's some pocket of some really good stuff still up there. And it's a 3-day event or 4-day event, Tyler?
It's 3 days. So you have your Thursday, Friday, and you got to make the cut to the top 25 on Saturday. So championship Saturday.
So believe that or not, when it was called an Everstone, a Strand event, I think it was a 4-day event, because I think I made the final day once, and it was a 4-day event. We didn't have co-anglers the final day, but and they cleared the weight. I don't think they do that, do they?
No, you know what? I don't want to speak off the top of my head, but I think they do. I think it starts over, but I don't want to speak off the top of my head because I don't know for sure.
It's an exciting, but I really think you're going to have to be able to flip flop back and forth. I think the guys that are going to do well at Truman are going to have some shallow fish, and they're going to have some deep fish, or they're going to have some tree fish, some suspended fish. I really know that goes on into the fall. And I don't know if you all remember, Milliken had a tournament a few years ago where he guaranteed like $10,000 or $20,000, and it was like in November, and a bunch of boats came out for it, and it took a little over 20 pounds to win. And those guys are good buddies of mine that won, and they caught them all suspended out in the trees, running their spinner baits 3 to 5 foot, which is fairly challenging. Keep a spinnerbait that deep into a tree. But That's how it was won. So suspending bites, that's kind of the dark horse, the X factor that I'm not sure about. Because they have been biting it. I have seen schooling fish like I've seen in years at Truman. So that's the X factor. Because some of those schooling fish land down in the trees, and the right guys figure out what to do to get them to.
Right. So what have you been doing? You've been on the lake every week almost this summer. Here in the last several weeks, what have you been doing specifically to catch your fish?
Well, if I'm fishing shallow, generally speaking, we are either top water bait, which I just went out and grabbed them off the deck of the boat, and these will just be choices for tomorrow morning. That's kind of like a pencil popper, and I'm kind of into the tail feather in the fall. I think that a lot of the bait is smaller, and sometimes you'll get fish bite at this big bait really because of what's on the treble hook. So does catch some bass with that treble hook, so that'll wear you out. But that would be not necessarily my first choice, maybe my second choice. My first choice would probably be I'm getting some very aggressive bites on the Chapo, or I have been for the last couple of weeks, up shallow, flat stuff. We even started getting them last time we were there, getting some bites in the very backs of some smaller creeks and pockets, which shows me that, length of day and all that stuff's really starting to have effect. So the guys that are I think that are gonna do well tomorrow are gonna have several different things going. They're gonna have to be able to catch them shallow, maybe morning, or square bill cranking. That's something else I thought. I grabbed a couple cranking sticks off the deck, and I don't know if people have been following my last couple videos, and a true September bait here on Lake of the Ozarks and is a old Bagley's crankbait with a bill on it, and it's ran on real heavy line from going very. This crankbait on 20-pound big game will actually only obtain about 6.5 feet deep, but that is just about perfect for the top of those trees. Mm-hmm. And we call it crankbait, and so that was pretty effective. And you can fish those fish with big worms too. There'll be guys that do that. But up shallow, in the backs of the creeks, or even main lake lay downs, throwing it to the actual. Some guys are going to catch them on the square bill. I really got to believe. Heck, I might even start out with if those two top water baits hadn't gotten me bites in my practice, I'd be all over a bucket. That would be another bait that I have on the boat. I just back. I didn't get to last weekend, so it's what it is. Where I was, and those baits are clear water choice, but it's pretty clear at Truman. Oh my God!
Yeah, from the pond to the lower Grand to the Tebow, you said it's been pretty clean.
Oh, and it's remarkably, and it's pretty low. I mean, I'm gonna say it's in the high 703s, low 704 range, and so everything was showing. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it came up to 704 and a half, but it was at 704 and a half. It's still showing lots. So there'll be lots of targets to go to. I think that, and it also shows those guys really what they're up against. If you're going to drive your boat up a creek, I'd personally rather have it low so I can see where the river channel is.
Right.
Opposed to it being, can't see anything and it's all just a foot under the water.
Right.
So.
Has there been any particular arm of the lake that has produced some fish, that's like maybe a better bite than others?
Well, I'm going to tell you this: the lower Tebow arm, before Clear Creek, the entrance of Clear Creek down to the dam has been really clear, and I have seen schooling fish in that arm that were epic, that had schools, I believe, that had 50 or 100 fish in them. And watching them push bait through the trees at high rates of speed. And really pelagic type stuff that Truman is not known for. You don't see it at Lakes of the Ozarks either, because there's lots of cover and docks, and you very rarely see schooling. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I know it does, but Truman, we have a tremendous white bass and hybrid population, which do school, but I'm seeing huge schools of black. You can always tell they will jump out of the water, where very rarely a white bass or hybrid will actually leave the water to get after the bait. But if you look across the lake and you see them schooling and you see fish coming out of the water, you need to get over there.
Yeah.
They're blacks. The problem is they move, that you got to be ready for them. You got to be like ready to go.
Now, you had said too that this isn't just your 13 to 14 inchers that are schooling, that you're seeing some good fish.
Big bug-eyed fish. I think it's not this video that I'm at now, it's the next one. I should catch a couple 4-pounders out of a school that I come across in the Tebow arm on tape, where they're coming down the bank down the tree line at us, where we're like, oh my God, and they're coming like, oh, get ready, here they go. It gets kind of exciting, obviously. And
yeah, of course.
Maybe not the best thing to have happen, but I can. I think it was Jason Christie that got a win right out from under Casey when Jason Christie came around the corner, and there was this bunch of schooling fish, and he won the tournament on those schooling fish, and it's just not something that happens very often. And they literally came by us, where the water's clear enough. I saw them go under the boat.
Wow.
Really hard for people to fathom, but I've seen it happen at Rayburn and Toledo Bend. I've seen it at Bull Shoals, but now I can say I've seen it at Truman. So I don't know how that'll affect. I know that that's problematic. I see that at Stockton. I see some of the healthiest fish in the whole lake be these huge, giant schooling fish, and that just chase big, giant shad. They won't be messing with those little 1-incher. You see them push the shad up to the surface, and the shad start what we call porpoise jumping, where they start jumping 3 to 5 feet at every leap out of the water. It's giant black bass are after them, and I've witnessed some 3 to 5 pounders. So I think that could play if some Toyota angler see that, figure it out, and can make those fish fire. Especially if they're better than I am at active target or live scoping. I'm pretty good with it. I'm not going to chase them around. That's just too much work, if you ask me. It's hard to. They move so fast here. It's really hard to stick with them. I just like to be able to see them coming.
Yeah.
And this video, that's what happens, and catch one of them. But it's funny because they come by the boat, and even if you catch them, you had a chance to catch quite a few of them, and it never fails. I never feel satisfied fishing for schooling fish.
Right.
Never can hit it. So we just don't have it enough.
Yeah.
It's probably, but so that, or somebody will go way up a creek somewhere in the Osage arm and land on the right area that has 15 of the right bass, and they're able to catch them 5 a day out of it, and they'll be able. Then the local guys have a lot of advantage, be able to jump from good spot to good spot. So, but 3 days is hard to put on.
Yeah.
In area, it's really hard to get 2 days together in a row, let alone 3. So,
especially with the pressure that's going to be on Saturday specifically, because there's several tournaments going on top of the Toyota Series. Let me ask you this. So for the next several days, I mean, for folks that are going to be fishing tournaments, that are going to be fun fishing for bass here the next week, if you had to pick a bait, just one bait that you're living and dying by, that's what you got to throw, and only that one, what's it going to be?
Well, I'm going to say probably the square bill, just because it's going to cover more. It's going to fish shallow, good. I mean, I might say a buzzbait if I knew the weather was going to be good and cloudy for 3 days, but it ain't going to be. I've heard big wind. The predictions are wind through the weekend. Southwesterly winds to exceed 25 miles an hour. So I'm going to say square bill. I'm not as good of a spinnerbait fisherman as some, and it seems a little early and a little warm for it, but maybe not. Maybe a guy with the heavier spinnerbait that you just never know. This Toyota series brings some real studs to this, and they're going to have some interesting techniques. And when the kayak guys come to the Truman, it's always way back in a creek. But that's kayak guys, because they actually seem to excel there, and they struggle out on the main body if there's even a little bit of wind. It's just the set. So maybe that, but I don't know. I'm torn. I would definitely go, if it was me, I'd go out and I'd fish shallow in the morning. And if I didn't have them by, say, possibly fire up and drive 30 or 40 miles way up some creek arm, either the Osage or probably the Tommy, and just because I know those arms better, and fish way away from the crowd, real shallow in the back of a creek, counting on the fish maybe to have already made this fall migration to the back. Because I have heard that they have, and I've caught some 2.5 to almost 3 pound fish in the back. Haven't caught a big one yet, but that doesn't mean it. I've been fishing out on the main lake mainly because it's so warm still. You got water still in the mid 80s.
Yeah.
80s, mid 80s, 283, really quite warm. So
yeah, we had a little bit of a cool down there last week where water temps might have gotten down in the upper 70s, but it warmed right back up this week. So
it's not profound. It's just a bump road right now. But length of the day makes probably as much. And the guys at Lake of the Ozarks are reporting catching them in the backs of the creek. So I've got to believe Truman, some of the fish have followed. I think there's not as many fish offshore. I'll say that. So I think that length of the day has either pushed them up or it's pushed up into the creeks, which is what the books all say should happen, and does happen to a degree. It does happen. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if the Brush win or the fight wins.
Yeah,
that's the big boxing match, and maybe the tree bite. Maybe that's the dark horse that I don't know. Half of me wishes I could do it, but truly, it's a very expensive tree, and it's something I'd have to miss a whole bunch of work for. And I've worked pretty hard to get this thing up and running, and a lot of times the insurance company or whoever's for the repair wants specifically me to touch the product. So it is what it is. Nobody else do it if they're wanting me.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't get to fish it, but I will be fishing lots of stuff, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm not for fishing tournament, so don't anybody feel sorry for me.
Right. I was talking with David Ryan yesterday, and he made a prediction that it could take as little as 9 pounds on day 1 and 9 pounds on day 2 to make the top 25 on Saturday. Darren thinks maybe 12 to 13 pounds gets you into the top 25. 12, 13 pound average in the first 2 days. You haven't been on the water the last few days, but you've been out fishing. You're staying up with guys who are fishing it. What's kind of your prediction on what you think it might take on a 3-day wait to win?
Well, the really strange deal is if you look at that Joe Bass that was 3 or 4 weeks, we had 1385 and we were in 30th place.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be more with Darren on this one. I'm thinking 11 and 3/4 to 12 and a half pounds a day would get you into what you need to do to make the cut. I really think that a guy that can average 15 a day
Probably wins.
is the guy who's going to win it. You look at that solo pro that was last weekend, and Kevin had 15 pounds and came in second place. And I think, there was one guy that did it, but could he do it 3 days in a row, keeping an average of 16 pounds? I don't know. I don't know if he could or not, but that would be a winning performance on Truman in this time of year. So maybe I'll be surprised. Maybe we'll just be surprised, and a couple guys will crack the 20-pound mark the first day. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I wish they had a packer and we could watch it, but I got to work.
Yeah.
But I'd check in. But I guess the weigh-in is going to be live. So that usually goes on an hour and a half. So
Yeah.
I'll probably watch that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be there shooting video too. We won't be live. We'll be posting later on the website, but we'll be there trying to get some interviews of some of the guys every day. What are some of your just final Fish 30 words of wisdom, for folks fishing Toyota Series or any of these tournaments or fun fishing for the next week? If you want to go out and catch bass, any final words of wisdom that we haven't already talked about?
We haven't talked about advertising. I would say that too. If I knew I was fishing behind a bunch of guys and I was, say, cranking a square bill, I'd definitely drop down to a 1.5 size, as opposed to like I got tied on here is a 2.5, and I like it just because that's more medium sized. But if I knew I was on the fish, they were right there. I maybe saw them with my active target, or I caught a couple of them and I was going back through them, I would definitely have a downsized thought on everything. I've heard guys downsizing buzz baits, downsizing your square bill crankbait, downsizing your tail worm down to a Cinco size worm. All that kind of stuff, when there's tons of pressure, can make a difference, especially when you know you're throwing at the fish. So that's why we got all the stuff in our tackle boxes. That's why we got all these holes, is to give them options, because and then you're asking for communication. They give you a bite on a small worm, boy, that does all kinds of. You get a bite on a smaller crankbait had been throwing, and it does work. Downsizing during the pressure is definitely a technique to allow you to not have to change water.
Yep.
It's something we do. We also throw a lot to a target. If we're target fishing and we know that somebody targeted in front of us, we might sit and literally make 20 or 30 casts to the exact target. Just frustrate the fish into biting.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We'll see. I really wonder if that up a creek isn't going to get it done. That or the trees. There are so many trees showing. Guy could get a good tree bite and have so many things, he might not be able to fish it all day. I mean, literally, his best stuff, he couldn't fish it all because there's so many trees.
Yeah.
So, who knows? But it's sure fun to watch. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I really am. And then, because we got the infrastructure to have more tournaments come to Truman Lake.
Yeah.
But between Clinton and between Warsaw, and restaurants between those two towns, Truman's perfectly located tournaments, and be able to handle. A lot of times they take you to places on these big tournaments and they don't have the infrastructure to handle it. We do at Truman. So I'm hoping Truman kicks them out and really produces some bags and gets everybody excited, and they think about coming to Truman Lake next year. I'd love to have 2 or 3 or 4 of these here. Think what that'd do for the economy around Truman Lake. Yep. Certainly could hurt it.
No, absolutely not. Well, David, a lot of really good information. Really appreciate it a ton. And for you joining tonight, can't wait to get this saved, posted, and uploaded to the website for our premium members to look at. And tell me again one more time where to find you online on the Fish 30.
Oh, definitely. Fish 30 on YouTube. Just FISH30, no space. We've got enough views and enough now that the search is easy to find us.
Yeah.
We need subscribers though. We did break 5,000. Our little channel is growing. We like that. And we had 2 videos. We've had a lot of views. So probably all the attention Truman's getting nationally.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
that's awesome.
I hope she kicks him out, man. I hope he's gonna stack him up.
Absolutely. Well, David, thanks again for joining. Really appreciate it. And for all you guys watching, thanks for being members of the website and supporting David's channel and supporting the website. And we'll look forward to catching you guys on the next one.
All right, Tyler, I appreciate it.